Section 7, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. This question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he have confidence in the advice his ministers receive from government departments?
Right Honourable the Prime Minister.
Speaker, as Prime Minister, I do not see or receive all the advice provided to ministers by government departments. I do, however, have confidence that ministers are generally well served by their departments, but of course that does not mean that the government always agrees with departments' advice.
Supplementary, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
How can he have any confidence in, for example, Treasury, when they have urged the Deputy Prime Minister to tell the Minister of Education to scale back policy and to sneak through education changes to minimise public opposition?
Right Honourable the Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, Treasury, like all government departments, provide a lot of advice to ministers. Ministers sometimes accept it and sometimes they reject it.
Supplementary, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
I say accepted then. Thank you very much. Supplementary question. Was the advice received by the Deputy Prime Minister, Honourable Bill English, urging him to rein in Minister Parata and advising how to spin education changes to the public requested by the Deputy Prime Minister or his staff, and if so, how long has Treasury been advising his government on spin and how to deceive the public of the country?
Right Honourable
Mr Speaker, I haven't seen the advice. You need to put the question down to the Minister of Finance, but I'd be very surprised if the Treasury used the word spin.
Supplementary. Point of order, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
I seek to table a press statement to relieve the Prime Minister of his surprise, which says precisely that.
A press statement, the source is... It's a public statement. It is in the public arena. Question number 8, Mike Sabin. Point of order, Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I seek leave to table the register of ownership of Tower Insurance. The Leader of the Opposition might find that ASB don't own any shares in them.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there anyone opposed to that course of action? There appears not. Leave is granted.
Hang on.
Order.
Hang on.
Order. I'm trying to hear them.
Well, first of all...
order. What is the member got a supplementary? Or what is
No. First of all...
A point of order.
How about dealing with my request to table a document?
It's in the public.
And then you can show the Prime Minister deference after you've dealt with the business of the House first.
I've already ruled on that. Question, point of order, Clayton. Honourable
Mr Speaker, in relation to that point of order, last week the Speaker, I think it was in relation to Mr Cunliffe, ruled that where a member's word was called into question, evidence could be tabled even though it was in the public arena if it refuted directly and backed the member's word. And the Speaker did allow that, sir. He ruled...
Yeah, it's a matter of dealing with each case as it actually comes along, and you're sort of calling for an instantaneous response, and I think on balance I got that right on this occasion. Yeah, I'll stick by that. I believe I did. Well, I've kind of dealt with that point of order.
Challenging your ruling, but you may or may not be aware, sir, and it was me who put this to the Speaker last week, that discussions had occurred with him, Mrs King and I, about this very point. He had agreed to consider the procedure and had agreed to put it into place as he did with Mr Cunliffe. And the ruling, as I understand it, was if a claim was made and that was refuted and a member had, say, a press statement that backed up the quote, or a press clipping that backed it up, or a documentation that was in the public arena, in that case the Speaker, I think in the last session, allowed it, sir.
Just give me a moment. Yeah, it was a press statement that was available to members. It was not an opportunity to make a statement. And the tabling of a document is to inform the House, not to make statements. And so if the purpose of actually releasing a press statement which is in the form of a statement, it is moving beyond the bounds of what is acceptable. Right. A further point of order?
Yeah, my point of order
Right Honourable Winston Peters.
To clarify what you've just said, all I did was to get up and say I wish to endeavour to remove the Prime Minister's doubt about the existence of this document, to present a press statement. After all, he raised the question as to whether it exists.
Yeah. The issue, though, is that the press statement is already released and available, and the member is using that in the purpose of making a statement. I thought we were clear about that. Righto. So question 8, Mike Sabin. Sorry?
Supplementary.
Supplementary question to...
The Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister.
Yes.
Honourable Jerry Brownlee. Sorry, I lost where we were.
Has the Prime Minister received any advice from officials on who the top 20 shareholders are in Tower Insurance?
Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Point of order. A point of order.
Standing orders are very clear that the Prime Minister has to have some level of ministerial responsibility for a question like that.
No, I'll uphold the point of order. The Prime Minister doesn't have a ministerial responsibility. Question. Sorry.
A supplementary question which says, does he have confidence in the advice his ministers receive from government departments? Now, I've asked what advice he's had from officials about a particular matter.
In relation to the ownership or the shareholding of a company which the government does not own, and I have ruled that the Prime Minister has no responsibility for that.
Point of order.
A point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I'd ask you to think very...
Order. A point of order is being held. Silence.
I'd ask you to think very carefully about whether you should rule out a question that seeks to understand if the Prime Minister has received advice about a shareholding in a company, or, for that matter, advice. Because, Mr. Speaker, you would find, I think, that there will be other circumstances, and there was even an issue brought up earlier today by the opposition, that would mean that the Prime Minister is immune from answering questions about some of these matters.
The government has no responsibility for Tower Insurance shareholders, and I've ruled it in that.
Speaking of the point of order.
A point of order.
Mr. Speaker, the question comes down to whether the question that is on the sheet, the primary question, talks about confidence in advice from officials. Now, officials give advice on a range of things. I'm simply asking if he's had advice about who are the top 20 shareholders in Tower Insurance, and I'm doing that, sir, because the Leader of the Opposition has made a completely unsubstantiated comment.
Look, order. We already have a point of order. Now, I'll hear the member.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
I've heard enough from the member. I'll hear them.
Sit down. Down you go. Down you go, fella.
Order.
Down.
Order.
Point of order, Mr.
Order. I really don't need any assistance. Look, I've ruled on this matter, and this came from a primary question which was in the broadest possible sense, and we are moving on. I've ruled that the Prime Minister has no responsibility for the shareholders of Tower, and that's the way I interpreted the question. Question 8. A point of order, Jerry Brownlee.
Mr. Speaker, I did not ask him if he had any responsibility. Any question that related to responsibility for Tower Insurance. I asked him about advice that he had from officials. Now, if that's ruled out, sir, the Prime Minister becomes immune from all sorts of questions from the opposition. I don't think that's good for Parliament.
Speaking to the point of order?
Yes. Speaking to the point of order. Mr. Speaker, 2 points in relation to this. The first of these is that you have made a ruling and has now been challenged by the Leader of the House 3 times. Members on this side of the House have been thrown out of the debating chamber for exactly that point. There is no justification for the Leader of the House to continue in this way.
Speaking to the point of order, the Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the question I'm answering here to the Honourable Winston Peters is in relation to advice. The question I'm receiving here is in relation...
Order! Silence.
The question I've got here on the sheet from Mr. Peters is in relation to government advice. Now, Mr. Speaker, the member has asked me a question about advice I received from officials. That has to be in line. And secondly, just the question before that, Matera Ture asked Stephen Joyce a question about advice in relation to Sky City. He was expected to answer that, and the government has no ownership of Sky City.
Well, no, I'm standing. Order. I'm standing on the ruling that I have made, and that we have moved completely beyond where the primary question was. Question 8. Supplementary. Jerry Brownlee, supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, has the Prime Minister received any advice during the question time today that would lead him to believe that the allegations made by the Leader of the Opposition were incorrect?
A point of order, Grant Robertson.
Mr. Speaker, that question is out of order for the same reason that you ruled the previous question, and the member is now trifling with you, and you should eject him from the chamber if he continues.
I'll determine whether or not it's in or out of order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, during question time, we heard Mr. Cunliffe say that what sort of bozo basically wouldn't know that ASB owned Tower Insurance. For the record, I have received some advice about the top 20 shareholders. For instance, number 1 is Atishi Custodians. Number 2, Accident Compensation Corporation.
A point of order, Grant Robertson.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is traversing material that you have just ruled out of order in this House. I cannot understand why it was out of order before and now it's in order. I'd ask for your ruling to be consistent on this matter.
We're going to move on. Question 8, it's out of order. Supplementary, David Parker.
Has he received any advice? Has he received any advice that ASB in fact owns Sovereign Assurance?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank goodness the opposition finance spokesman knows something even if the leader is completely misguided. Yes, they do own Sovereign. And hold on, because let's get to the better bit. Let's replay the video of when I answered the question, which was, it's not very smart to be a bank like Kiwi Bank, lend money and then issue fire and general insurance against that. At which point, the leader of the opposition got on his feet. Sovereign provide life insurance. And the way he's going, he'll need life insurance, I reckon.
Question number 8, Mike Sabin. Order. Question. Order. Is this a point of order?
It is a point of order.
Point of order. The Right Honourable Winston.
A serious development has crept into this Parliament, and it is that a number of people in this Parliament, without anything so much of appreciation of what's going on, just wantonly clap when their leader sits down. Now, frankly, No, Mr. Speaker, I got to.
On my feet.
Well, it's not a good look at home.
Order.
They know it's nonsense.
I'm on my feet. That's not a helpful point of order. Point of order.
Mr.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Can I suggest to the member if he didn't kick people out when they had no cause to do so, they might still clap for him.
Order. A point of order. Jerry Brownlee.
Mr. Speaker. No, I've got one here.
I've acknowledged the member for a point of order.
Yeah.
Jerry Brownlee.
Mr. Speaker, I am concerned about the ruling that you gave earlier, and
order.
I'm simply, as members often do, asking
for consideration,
particularly in light of the question that was allowed from the Honourable David Parker.
Yeah, and I will give the matter some consideration and bring a finding back to the House.
Speaker, I want to know why you...
is this a point of order?
Yeah, it is a point of order.
Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Why did you give the Prime Minister licence to make that claim as a point of order when he knows full well that unlike him, we don't prop up crooks?
Order. It's not a point of order. Question 8, Mike Sabin.
Thank you, sir. I can't promise it'll be as exciting as the last one. Sir, my question is to the Associate Minister of Justice.
A point of order, Brendan Horan. Order! Order.
Point of order, sir.
Just excuse me for a moment. Points of order will be heard in silence, and the House is in a very fractious mood, but we will abide by the tradition of the House that points of order will be heard in silence. And if members continue to interject during points of order, some of them will be taking an early shower. Point of order, Brendan Horan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like clarification from that member if he was referring to me.
No, that's not a point of order.
Well, I take offence from that member's...
A point of clarification is not a point of order. Mike Sabin, question 8.
Thank you, sir.